The galaxy believed it was at peace. For more than a century, the great empires had stopped fighting large wars. Trade routes were open, borders were stable, councils met, treaties were signed, and the galaxy told itself that the age of destruction was over. Humans believed it too. Humanity was still young compared to most spacefaring species. They were not the strongest. They did not have the largest fleets. They did not rule ancient worlds or command legendary weapons. What humans had instead was effort. They traded fairly. They helped rebuild ruined planets after wars. They did not start. They sent engineers, doctors, and supplies where others sent demands. Humans avoided large wars whenever possible. When conflict came, they defended their borders and stopped. They did not chase enemies. They did not punish entire species. To many alien empires, this made humans predictable, useful, and disposable. In council chambers across the galaxy, human diplomats were often praised in public and mocked in private. Alien leaders smiled and shook hands while quietly discussing one uncomfortable truth. Humans learned fast. Their technology improved too quickly. Their fleets adapted too well. Their populations recovered too easily after losses. Some alien leaders began to whisper the same thought. Better to remove humans now than face them later. The plan did not begin with war. It began with cooperation. A joint security operation was announced near a contested trade corridor. Several empires claimed pirates were gathering in the region. They asked humanity to help stabilize the area. The invitation sounded normal, reasonable. Human commanders reviewed the request and saw no reason to refuse. Cooperation had always worked before. Sending fleets would strengthen trust and show goodwill. Human diplomats arrived at alien stations. They were welcomed with smiles. Alien leaders praised humanity's reliability. They spoke of friendship, unity, and shared responsibility. There were formal dinners, promises of future trade, talks of deeper alliances. Nothing seemed wrong. At the same time, human fleets moved into position. Dozens of ships formed clean defensive formations alongside alien vessels. Their weapons were powered down to standard alert levels. Their shields were active but not reinforced. There was no warning, no signal, no countdown. In a single moment, the alien fleets turned their guns. Energy beams ripped through human ships at point-blank range. Missiles tore into hulls before shields could fully react. Command ships vanished in fire before orders could be given. Human vessels were destroyed mid-formation. Pilots did not even understand what was happening. Sensors screamed with impossible data. Friendly signals became hostile in the same second. Across multiple systems, it happened again and again. At the exact same time, far from the fleets, human civilian colonies were struck. Orbital defenses were disabled by false access codes shared during joint security planning. Planetary shields collapsed. Bombardments followed without mercy. Cities burned. Stations broke apart. Civilian transports were destroyed as they tried to escape. No declaration of war was sent. No explanation was given. No message reached Earth. Billions of humans died in minutes. On alien worlds, leaders watched reports come in. They spoke calmly, carefully choosing their words. They called it prevention. They claimed humans were becoming too dangerous, too unpredictable, too fast. They told their people that this action saved the galaxy from a future war. In private chambers, some leaders felt relief. Others felt fear. But all of them expected the same response. They expected screams across human channels. They expected rage-filled broadcasts. They expected desperate fleets rushing forward in blind revenge. That was how wars always began. Instead, human space went silent. No distress calls, no emergency broadcasts, no retaliation strikes. Human communication networks shut down completely. Navigation beacons powered off. Trade signals vanished. To alien sensors, human territory became a dark, empty region of space. At first, the alien empires were confused. Then they were pleased. They told themselves the attack had worked better than expected. Humanity had been broken, their spirit crushed, their command structure destroyed. Some leaders even laughed. They ordered celebrations. They moved fleets back to defensive positions, confident the threat was gone. A few cautious commanders suggested scouting human space. Those scout ships never returned. Still, no messages came from humanity. Weeks passed, then months. Deep inside human space, something very different was happening. Human leaders did not shout. They did not argue. They did not ask why. They studied the attacks in silence. They counted the dead. They reviewed every signal, every betrayal, every shared code that had been turned against them. They recorded the names of every empire involved, every fleet, every commander who gave the order. There were no emotional speeches. Only one question was asked. How final should our response be? Shipyards that aliens believed destroyed came back online, hidden, hardened, untouched. Fleets that were never listed in public records began to move. New formations assembled far from known space lanes. Humanity did not rush. They prepared. Because humans had learned something the galaxy did not understand. Humans did not answer betrayal with noise. They answered it with decisions. And when human space finally moved again, it would not be to speak. It would be to end something. The galaxy believed humanity had been broken, did not understand. Humans were only deciding how to respond. The silence did not feel like victory. At first, alien leaders celebrated. They told their people the threat was gone. Humanity, the young and rising species, had been removed before it could become dangerous. Human space was dark. No trade ships moved. No signals crossed the borders. No diplomats asked questions. To many empires, this looked like collapse. But some commanders felt uneasy. Human space was not chaotic. It was not full of panic signals or broken transmissions. It was quiet in a way that felt controlled, too controlled. Long-range sensors continued to watch the borders. They showed strange patterns. Energy readings appeared deep inside human territory. Brief flashes, then nothing. Shipyard signatures flickered on and off, never staying long enough to be tracked. Scouting missions were approved. Small, fast alien vessels crossed into human space, expecting debris fields and abandoned stations. None of them returned. No distress calls, no wreckage, no signs of battle. The ships simply vanished. Alien admirals argued over the data. Some claimed the scouts were lost due to damaged navigation systems. Others suggested hidden human mines or automated defenses left behind. Still, there was no message from humanity. Weeks passed, then months. The galaxy began to change its tone. Trade routes that once passed near human borders were quietly rerouted. Neutral worlds stopped speaking about humanity in public. Older empires, those with long memories, started reviewing ancient records. They noticed something troubling. In the past, every species that had attacked humanity without mercy no longer existed, not destroyed in loud wars, not remembered in songs. They simply vanished from history. Inside alien councils, fear began to grow. Human silence was not weakness. It was focus. Deep within human space, massive underground command centers were active. Light-filled long halls carved into asteroids and planets. Human officers moved with calm purpose. No one shouted. No one questioned orders. Every loss had been recorded. Every betrayal had been mapped. Human fleets were changing. Ship designs were stripped of decoration. Armor was thickened. Weapons were rebuilt for one purpose: ending wars, not fighting them. Human engineers did not speak of victory. They spoke of efficiency. Civilian evacuation models were calculated. Alien military structures were analyzed down to individual shield nodes. Supply lines were traced backward to their source worlds. Humanity was not preparing for battle. They were preparing for removal. A single human fleet began to assemble far beyond known space lanes. It was larger than any fleet humanity had ever revealed. But even that fleet was only part of the plan. Alien sensors finally detected movement. A deep space warning triggered across multiple empires. Something massive was approaching from human territory, but not from expected routes. The fleet did not follow trade corridors or border checkpoints. It emerged from empty space. The ships were dark. No identification signals, no energy flares, no attempt at communication. Alien commanders demanded answers. None came. As the human fleet moved closer, alien sensors struggled to lock onto it. The ships used unfamiliar materials, layered hulls, and energy dampeners that swallowed scans instead of reflecting them. The fleet did not slow. It did not change course. It aimed directly at the heart of the first empire that had ordered the betrayal. Panic spread through command centers. Defensive fleets scrambled into position, weapons powered up, shields strengthened. Emergency messages were sent to allies. Still, humanity said nothing. As the human fleet crossed into alien space, something terrifying became clear. The ships were not reacting to threats. They were ignoring them. Missiles launched from alien platforms vanished before reaching their targets. Energy beams struck human armor and dispersed, leaving shallow marks that sealed themselves seconds later. Human ships did not return fire. Not yet. Alien commanders shouted orders, demanded countermeasures, and called for reinforcements. But confusion spread fast. The human fleet moved with perfect coordination, as if guided by a single mind. Then the first shot was fired. Not at a ship, not at a station. The human fleet struck the alien command relay network. In one moment, communication across half the empire collapsed. Defense grids went blind. Fleets lost coordination. Planetary shields dropped to standby mode without orders. Then the human weapons activated fully. Targets were chosen with cold precision. Military shipyards were erased in seconds. Orbital weapons platforms vanished in silent flashes of light. Command stations were cut apart, not exploded, cleanly destroyed. Still, no human message was sent. Alien civilians watched the sky fill with fire, confused and terrified. Their leaders had promised safety. They had promised control. Instead, they saw their military disappear without a single warning. Only after the first empire's defenses collapsed did a human broadcast finally appear. It was short, calm, emotionless. This response was calculated. No threats followed, no demands. The message ended. Across the galaxy, other empires stopped celebrating. They stopped speaking. They watched. And they began to understand something they should have realized earlier. Humanity was not angry. Anger burns fast. Humanity was determined. And determination does not stop once it begins. As the human fleet advanced deeper into alien territory, one truth spread quietly through every council chamber in the galaxy. The silence had not meant surrender. It had meant judgment was coming. And it had already been decided. The first empire did not fall in a day. It fell in silence. After the command relays were destroyed, alien fleets tried to regroup. Individual admirals gave local orders. Defense stations fired without coordination. Planets activated emergency shields, hoping to hold long enough for help to arrive. Help never came. The human fleet moved like a machine that did not hesitate. Each human ship followed a role it never abandoned. Some cut supply routes. Others targeted fuel depots and repair docks. Heavy ships advanced slowly, absorbing fire while smaller vessels slipped through gaps and struck from inside defensive rings. Human weapons did not look powerful at first. They did not explode. They did not create massive fireballs. Instead, they cut. Beams sliced through armor in clean lines. Missiles changed direction mid-flight, hunting engines and command cores instead of holes. Once a target was disabled, it was ignored. Humans did not waste time destroying what was already finished. Alien pilots panicked. They were trained for battles where both sides shouted, threatened, and tested each other. This was different. The human fleet did not react emotionally. It did not respond to taunts or desperate transmissions. Human ships did not answer calls for surrender. They did not demand retreat. They simply continued forward. On the Empire's capital world, leaders gathered in underground chambers. The sky above burned as orbital defenses collapsed one by one. They watched screens filled with impossible data. Their fleets were being dismantled, not defeated. One leader asked the question. None of them wanted to voice. Why won't they speak? No one answered. The truth was simple. Humanity had already spoken months ago when they went silent. The human fleet reached the capital orbit. Alien commanders launched everything they had left. Hundreds of ships rushed forward in one desperate wave. The human fleet changed formation for the first time. Ships spread out, opening corridors of empty space. Alien weapons fired wildly into the gaps. Then the human fleet closed again. Energy storms tore through the alien formation. Entire squadrons lost power and drifted helplessly. Human vessels moved to the chaos, disabling ships with perfect accuracy. Some alien pilots tried to flee. Human ships did not chase them far. Instead, they destroyed the jump gates. Escape became impossible. Below, on the planet's surface, civilians watched the sky darken as debris burned through the atmosphere. Emergency broadcasts played on endless repeat, begging citizens to remain calm. There was no calm, only fear. Deep in orbit, the human flagship moved forward. It was larger than any other vessel in the fleet. Its hull was scarred, not polished. Its design was simple, heavy, and brutal. It did not fire at the planet. It fired at the last intact military command structure. The structure vanished in a single flash. That was when the second human message arrived. It was broadcast on every frequency. Military resistance concluded. No emotion followed. No explanation. The empire was finished. Across the galaxy, other empires finally understood the pattern. Human fleets were not spreading out. They were moving in sequence, one betrayer at a time. Some alien leaders ordered emergency meetings. Others attempted to send apologies, explanations, and excuses. Humanity did not respond. Human fleets arrived at the second empire, then the third. Each time the same pattern followed. No warning, no demands, no negotiations. Military assets were erased. Leadership structures were removed. The population was left alive but defenseless. The galaxy watched in horror. Historians tried to understand what they were seeing. This was not conquest. Humans were not claiming territory. They were not installing governors. They were erasing the ability to threaten humanity ever again. Some empires attempted preemptive surrender. They powered down fleets. They opened borders. They begged for mercy. Human fleets passed them by. Only those who had betrayed humanity were targeted. That truth spread fast. So did the fear. On neutral worlds, citizens stared at news feeds in silence. They had believed humans were gentle, forgiving, slow to anger. They were wrong. Humanity was not gentle. They were restrained. And restraint, once removed, was terrifying. The Fourth Empire tried something different. They launched a galaxy-wide broadcast, admitting guilt and blaming rogue commanders. They offered full cooperation, tribute, and shared technology. The human fleet paused. For the first time, it stopped advancing. Alien leaders felt hope. Then a single human message arrived. Responsibility cannot be transferred. The fleet resumed its advance. The empire fell within hours. By the time the Fifth Empire was struck, there was no confusion left. Alien commanders knew exactly what was happening. Humanity was not fighting a war. They were delivering consequences. Inside the human fleet, commanders watched reports in silence. There was no celebration, no pride, only confirmation. Each system cleared was marked and closed. Humanity was not angry. Anger fades. This was memory in motion, and memory does not forget. As the human fleet prepared to move on to the next target, a realization finally reached the rest of the galaxy. The betrayal had not awakened a monster. It had awakened something far worse, a species that remembered every wound and chose to make sure it would never be repeated. By the time the human fleet reached the Sixth Empire, the galaxy had stopped pretending. No one spoke of peace anymore. No one claimed the attacks were misunderstandings. Every council chamber knew the truth now. Humanity was removing threats, not conquering them, not warning them, ending them. The Sixth Empire was older than most stars in its region. Its leaders believed age meant wisdom and power. They believed experience would save them. They were wrong. The moment human ships entered their space, alarms screamed across thousands of worlds. Defense fleets launched immediately, far larger than anything the previous empires had fielded. The sky filled with ships. The humans did not slow. Alien admirals ordered everything to fire at once. Space burned with energy and metal. Missiles crossed paths in endless waves. The human fleet moved straight through it. Armor absorbed what should have destroyed cities. Shields bent, adapted, and reformed. Human ships advanced like a wall that did not break. Then the humans changed tactics. Instead of focusing on fleets, they targeted infrastructure. Power networks collapsed across entire systems. Shipyards lost gravity control and tore themselves apart. Military worlds went dark as command AIs were erased in seconds. Alien fleets suddenly found themselves blind. No orders, no coordination, no escape paths. Human ships struck next. Disabled fleets were not destroyed immediately. They were left drifting while humans moved deeper, cutting the empire apart piece by piece. On the capital world, leaders argued in panic. Some demanded surrender. Others demanded retaliation. One voice finally spoke the truth. They are not here to win. They are here to finish. Emergency evacuation orders were issued for civilians. Transport ships fled in every direction. The human fleet did not stop them. Human targeting systems ignored civilian vessels completely. That frightened the empire more than anything else, because it meant humans were choosing. The final military stronghold stood above the capital, protected by layered shields and ancient weapons. It had never fallen in any previous war. The human flagship moved forward alone. Alien weapons struck it again and again. The shields flickered, then stabilized. The flagship did not return fire. It moved closer. Then it fired once. The weapon was silent. There was no explosion. The stronghold simply separated. Armor peeled away. Power cores collapsed inward. The structure folded into itself and vanished. The Empire's military command was gone. Across the galaxy, the message finally arrived. It was broadcast everywhere. This empire has been neutralized. No threats followed, no explanation. The galaxy understood what the word meant. Neutralized did not mean defeated. It meant incapable of ever harming humanity again. The pattern repeated. Empires fell one after another. Some resisted. Some surrendered. Some tried to hide behind allies. Humanity did not care. Those who had betrayed humanity were marked. Those who had not were ignored. Soon, something new appeared across the galaxy. Fear without confusion. Everyone knew exactly why this was happening. Human records of the betrayal were released. Not as speeches, not as emotional stories, just data. Timelines, orders, weapon logs, casualty numbers, billions of names. The galaxy could no longer lie to itself. Humanity had not been attacked by accident. They had been chosen. That truth broke something deep inside the galactic order. Some empires collapsed without human fleets ever arriving. Their citizens revolted. Their leaders were removed. Entire governments fell, desperate to prove they had no part in the betrayal. Humanity did not intervene. They only watched. The next empire attempted one last strategy. They captured surviving human prisoners from the initial attacks. They broadcast them, wounded and restrained, demanding negotiations. The human fleet stopped instantly. For a moment, the galaxy held its breath. Then, a single human ship moved forward. It was small, unarmed. It approached alone. Alien leaders smiled. They believed they had finally found leverage. The human ship transmitted one message. All prisoners are recorded. Then, the human ship self-destructed. The blast wiped out the prison station and every military vessel nearby. The human fleet resumed its advance. Later, human records confirmed the prisoners had already been dead before the broadcast. Humanity had known. They had simply closed the final door. By now, even ancient empires were afraid. Legends spoke of species that destroyed worlds in rage. Humanity was different. They destroyed certainty. They destroyed the belief that betrayal could be survived. As the human fleet prepared for its final targets, a realization spread across the galaxy. Humanity was not escalating. They had planned this ending from the very beginning. Every strike followed a path decided months earlier, during the silence. The final empire on the list was the one that had proposed the betrayal first. The architects, the planners, the ones who convinced others it was necessary. Their space was heavily fortified. Their fleets were massive. Their leaders were confident in their defenses. The human fleet arrived anyway. This time, there was no long battle. Human weapons activated at full output. Every military asset vanished within minutes. Then the human fleet stopped. For the first time since the response began, humanity sent a long message. It was shown on every screen in the galaxy. You believed betrayal was safe. You believed silence meant weakness. You believed humanity would accept loss. We remember every name. We end every threat. This is not revenge. This is correction. The Empire ceased to exist as a power. And with its fall, the galaxy finally understood. Humanity had not lashed out. They had taught a lesson written in endings. And it was one the galaxy would never forget. After the last empire fell, the galaxy changed its behavior overnight. Trade lanes went quiet. War fleets stopped training drills. Councils that once argued loudly now spoke in careful whispers. Every leader understood the same truth. Humanity was still moving. No one knew if the list was finished. No one knew who might be next. The fear was not loud. It was deep. Entire empires began reviewing old records, desperate to prove they had not helped the betrayal. Minor worlds searched archives for forgotten agreements, hidden votes, or silent approvals. Some discovered their guilt too late. Others prayed they had been ignored. Messages flooded toward human space. Apologies came first. Formal statements filled with regret and careful language. Alien leaders claimed they had been misled. They said they had feared humanity only because others told them to. They promised loyalty, peace, and cooperation. Humanity did not answer. Then came the offers. Technology older than stars. Access to forbidden archives. Entire planets offered as gifts. Fleets placed under human command. Still, no reply. Silence returned, heavier than before. Some empires began to panic. Their leaders remembered how humanity had reacted to the first betrayal. They remembered the months of silence. They understood what silence meant now. It meant judgment had not yet been delivered. One powerful empire, untouched by the attacks, decided to act boldly. They sent a direct delegation into human space, unarmed, defenseless, and broadcasting surrender signals. Their ships were allowed to land. The galaxy watched in shock. For the first time since the Annihilation began, humans allowed contact. The alien delegation entered a human council chamber carved deep inside an asteroid. There were no banners, no symbols of victory, only simple walls and quiet screens. Human representatives stood waiting. They did not smile. They did not show anger. The alien leader spoke quickly. He admitted fear. He admitted guilt by silence. He begged for forgiveness, promising that his empire had never fired a weapon against humanity. The human response was short. You benefited. The words echoed in the chamber. The alien leader tried to argue, tried to explain, tried to beg again. The human representative raised one hand. Silence, he said calmly. We do not measure betrayal only by action, he continued. We measure it by choice. The delegation was escorted out. They were not harmed. They were not threatened. They were simply sent away. The message was clear. Humanity was not interested in apology. They were interested in memory. Across the galaxy, something else began to happen. Former allies of the destroyed empires started turning on each other. Blame spread like fire. Old friendships collapsed as worlds tried to protect themselves by exposing others. The galaxy fractured. Humanity did nothing to stop it. They watched. They recorded. Some alien populations began to question their leaders openly. They demanded to know why humanity had been marked as disposable, why no one had spoken up when the betrayal was planned. Riots broke out on distant worlds. Governments fell. Entire ruling classes were removed by their own people. Still, the human fleets did not move. That frightened the galaxy more than the attacks. Because now, no one knew what humanity wanted. Weeks passed, then months. Finally, a human broadcast appeared. It was not a warning. It was not a threat. It was a record. Every empire involved in the betrayal was listed. Every fleet, every commander, every council vote, every silent approval. There was no anger in the presentation, only facts. At the end of the broadcast, one final message appeared. Those listed are concluded. A pause followed, then new text appeared. Those not listed are observed. The galaxy understood. Humanity was not done watching. Borders around human space were left untouched. Human fleets returned to deep space, disappearing from sensors again. But now, the silence meant something different. It meant restraint. Some empires tried to take advantage of this. They resumed small wars, believing the danger had passed. They were wrong. Human probes appeared near those conflicts, silent, watching. The wars stopped quickly. Humanity never interfered directly. They did not need to. The galaxy had learned. Fear did what fleets could not. On neutral worlds, children were taught new lessons in history schools, not about ancient empires or lost wars, but about humanity, about the species that traded peace, avoided war, and rebuilt others' ruins, and about what happened when that species was betrayed. Stories changed. Humans were no longer called weak. They were called patient. They were no longer called forgiving. They were called final. In a quiet human council, far from alien eyes, commanders reviewed the operation. Every target marked complete. Every loss recorded. One question was asked. Have we said enough? The answer came quickly. Yes, one commander replied. The galaxy understands now. Humanity did not celebrate. They did not build monuments. They returned to trade, to exploration, to rebuilding. But something fundamental had changed. The galaxy no longer looked at humans as a young species. They looked at them as a line that must never be crossed, because betrayal of humanity did not lead to war. It led to disappearance. And that truth settled into the galaxy like a permanent scar. Centuries passed. Stars shifted, trade routes changed, new species rose into space, old ones faded into memory, but one truth never changed. No one betrayed humanity again. The destroyed empires became empty regions on star maps. Their former capitals were studied by historians and avoided by travelers. Navigation warnings marked those systems as silent zones, places where fleets once ruled, and now nothing answered. Children across the galaxy learned their names not as powers, but as lessons. Human space did not expand aggressively after the Annihilation. That confused many observers. Human fleets returned to patrol routes. Trade ships resumed movement. Diplomats once again appeared in council chambers, calm and professional. Humanity looked normal, but the galaxy was not. Every alien leader who spoke to a human felt the weight of memory. Every negotiation was careful. Every promise was honored twice over. No one joked about testing human limits anymore, because everyone knew humans did not forget. On a distant neutral world, an alien historian stood before a group of students. The lesson was required by galactic law. He activated a display. It showed a timeline. At the center was one event, the Great Betrayal. The historian spoke slowly. Humans were not the strongest species, he said. They were not the most advanced. They were not the most violent. The students leaned forward. So why did they win? One asked. The historian paused. Because they understood something the galaxy did not, he answered. They understood patience. He showed images of human colonies before the attack cities, alive with light, trade ships moving freely, humans working alongside other species. Then he showed the silence, months where no signal came from human space. The galaxy thought this meant fear, he continued. It did not. The display changed again. Human fleets, dark holes, perfect formations. Humans used silence to choose, the historian said. They did not ask how to survive. They asked how to end the danger forever. On Earth, humanity remembered too. Memorials were not loud or grand. Names were carved quietly into stone and metal. Every colony lost was recorded. Every life mattered. Human children were taught history early, not to create hatred, but to create awareness. They were told, "We seek peace, but peace must be protected." Humanity did not become cruel after the Annihilation. They became careful. They helped rebuild worlds destroyed by the betrayal. They sent aid even to former enemy populations, never to the leaders, only to civilians. That confused the galaxy again. Why help after destruction? The answer was simple. Humans did not hate species. They hated decisions. A new rule spread through galactic politics. It was never written in any treaty. It did not need to be. Never corner humanity. Never deceive them in silence. Never assume patience means weakness. Centuries later, a young alien commander stood on the bridge of a ship near human space. His fleet had suffered damage during a storm, and human territory was the closest safe route. He hesitated. Old stories echoed in his mind. His officers waited nervously. Finally, he sent a message. Not a demand, not a request, a full report. Every weapon system listed, every movement explained, every intention made clear. The response came quickly. Safe passage granted. Nothing more. The fleet passed without incident. The commander exhaled for the first time in hours. Humanity had not changed. They still respected honesty. But the galaxy had learned what dishonesty cost. In the deepest human archives, classified records of the Annihilation remained sealed. Only one final report was left unclassified. It contained a single sentence. We acted not to rule the galaxy, but to make betrayal unprofitable forever. That sentence reshaped history. Wars became smaller. Betrayals became rare. Diplomacy became honest if only, out of fear. Humanity returned to exploration, to science, to building strange new cities among the stars. But when humanity spoke in councils, the room always listened, not because humans were loud, but because silence from humanity had once ended empires. In the far future, long after the last witness of the Great Betrayal was gone, the galaxy still told the story, not as a warning, as a rule. If humanity is quiet, listen carefully. Because when humans finally move, the decision was made long ago, and it will not change.